It's okay. I'm not putting out the audio this time like I do every other show. I made sure. There we go. We're live.
Idea for all this really came from a dream?
Yes, it did.
Good evening and welcome to Nox Mente. Yes, my microphone's working. Welcome, everyone. Tonight's guest is Yogi Chander. Yogi is a curious inventory of magic, ministry, and metaphysical martial arts. A tongue twister. His journey so far has been solidly grounded through meditation and athletic conditioning, and elevated through energy medicine, yoga, and sacred sexuality. He finds samadhi in the mystical places between consciousness and the supramundane. Yogi, welcome to Nox Mente.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome, Chander.
Wow, Neat. How are you doing? Thanks for inviting me, guys. It's a dream come true.
Yes, this is good.
Literally.
Chander, for people that don't know, has struck out and on his own and is having interesting conversations with interesting people and a Sunday chill. Isn't that right, Yogi Chander?
That's right. Yeah, Sunday afternoon chill has developed. It's a little panel show sometimes, and sometimes it's just me and a bunch of chatters.
Yeah.
And I might be on this weekend.
Jerry should do it.
Totally. Everybody out there in the chat room, please put a 1 if you want Jerry to.
There's no one in the chat room yet. one guy, Dr. Strangelove's here.
It takes a minute to warm up. But
Yeah.
Right, I was the first guest on your show, and I was surprised at how long we went and how fast it went.
That's what you said.
Hey.
I got a lot of pent up that's what she said because there was a shitload of them at work today I couldn't say.
Well, here we go.
Go right in anytime. It'll always be appropriate.
But
it was an amazing show, Niche. I had been wanting to speak with you for so long, and I wasn't. In retrospect, I'm not surprised we talked so long. And but yeah, there's just it did go quick. There's so much.
It was like 3.5 hours.
Right.
Yeah. I was exhausted, Chander, afterwards.
Oh boy, yeah, that's what she said. Oh, Jerry, where were you, man?
I'm checking levels and shit.
She was already leading you on though, or leading you into that. So.
So it's a pleasure to finally have you here, and I think it's auspicious that this Nox Mente, because we took a hiatus, we took a holiday break, our first one in all these years, and the last Nox Mente was with our beloved Michelle Embry, so that's auspicious because I know you and Michelle are friends. She's on your show. You've had her on your show. She gets on the panels and on the chill sessions, and
yes, yeah, she's there. She's a supporter. You know what I found? She's all around the community. She actually shows up and participates all around. It's cool.
Oh yeah, I love her. I like how centered she is.
Right.
She's a very centered person. In these times, I especially value that. So
yes,
it's a quality that seems to be sinking.
Especially amongst your friends who have turned to the dark side.
Well, I mean, we all must, the razor's edge, baby. It ain't easy on that razor's edge. So
wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, just stay off Facebook. I think you're fine.
Oh God, face what?
I left Facebook about 2-3 years ago, and I started to clean house a little bit and started dropping friends. And finally, I was like, "What am I even doing here?" I didn't have a business reason or anything. It was just not for me. So I left, and I haven't gone back. Now I'm
I
like,
left
well,
4 years ago, and that was the second time I left. They make it really difficult to leave because it continues to want to sign you in every 6 weeks or something.
Are
I
you
had to go
sure you
through
want to
like a
leave?
hoopla. Yeah, I mean, it will automatically sign you in, so you'll get notifications that your friends are like, "Yay, you're back," and I'm like, "No, I'm not." So, all right, well, let's get into Nox Mente,
I love it. Yeah.
Night Mind.
Mm.
So, Chander, let's do this. Let's go all the way back as far as you can recall, right? Back to young Chander in the early days. And what is back there that still holds space in your memory? What do you recall from that period?
Mm. I have really vivid memories, but they're kind of like flashes and short clips. Um, but they're very vivid, and they're all full color and auditory. My memories, I'm talking, and some they're associated with some event, like fairly traumatic to majorly traumatic. Stands out from the earliest times.
What? So, of course, you don't have to share anything you do not want to
I'm an
here.
open book for you guys. Yeah.
I like this about you, and I discovered that when we had our long chat. What
Mhm.
so what was traumatic back there that was really in these formative years, in these formative days?
Well, time is a little wibbly wobbly for me, and so I'm not sure which came first, but some things that stand out. One is a little less dramatic. I remember I was sitting on the floor of a room playing with these little plastic dinosaur toys, kind of like army men, only dinosaurs,
I loved those.
right? I loved them
Mhm.
so much that I was actually in my neighbor's house. I had broken into their home and was playing
Oh.
with the son's dinosaurs because I didn't have any, and I thought, why not? But I mean, I'm talking, I was young. The door was just open. I just wandered in, didn't even know any better.
This is an exercise in desire. You desire those dinosaur figures.
That's right. Maybe they said something like, you can come and play with these anytime. And so I guess maybe I did.
Yeah.
I,
Back in the
I,
good old days when nobody locked their doors as well.
that's right. We're talking the 70s, early 70s.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't
And
lock my door.
I did.
Jerry,
Say
don't
again?
advertise that now. Jesus.
I got nothing to steal.
It's not about that. All right, moving on. Where's the hook?
It depends on where I'm at. Boulder's a pretty safe area here. Like,
Jerry.
nice.
Okay, so all right, you went into your neighbors that had these dinosaur figurines, these little plastic ones from the high 70s.
Yeah, and I didn't really break in. But yeah, so I wandered in, but uh, I remember getting like them coming home, and nobody was happy with me at all. And I remember I just remember getting in trouble. Is all I remember. But I remember like them coming home and like their mouths dropping open, and that's about it.
Did you, in this memory, did you have a concept that you were doing anything wrong or bad?
Not at all.
Yeah. So you were just going in wanting to play, and then you got in trouble for that.
Yeah, I mean they're like he was. I don't know. Our next door neighbor's probably best friend or something, and yeah, I felt welcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ever
What
since
if
then, I've been the cat who walks where he wants.
this became a power episode?
That's right.
So also,
I'm
what
actually a
are
lot friend
some
too.
other experiences that you recall from back in these early days, little glimpses of young you?
Hmm. Okay, a little. We'll go progressively traumatic. How about that?
Let's
The
do it.
next one was I remember walking in our garden at home. We lived in this white brick house with a really beautiful garden and a swimming pool in the back, which I was terrified of. It took me forever to go under the water in that thing, and that's a whole nother set of things. But before then, I was walking in the garden and I stepped on a bee,
Mm.
and the bee stung my toe, and I didn't understand why the bee wanted to hurt me. And I remember whoever was with me, I don't know who it was, but they kind of were trying to explain, um, that the bee didn't mean anything by it. I just stepped on it, but man, I can still almost feel it. And I've had a few experiences since then with bees and wasps, where they've approached me in unexpected places, like riding my motorcycle. One flew in my helmet under the
Oh,
visor, and
jeez.
stung me in the face.
Oh, man.
That was in my later years, but anyway, so bees, and which kind of is a little segue. I feel that something like that, like the bees, especially since they're recurring, I feel like it's a sign of some kind. I'm definitely one who the animals make appearances to me, animals of all kinds, and it's typically tied with something.
What age were you when the bee thing happened? What
Hmm.
did you say?
I was less than 6.
Yeah, that's what I was
Are
kind
you
of
in
feeling.
chat, Nish?
No, why?
Because someone just asked how old was he when that happened.
Well, don't pin that on my psychic eye. That's just a logical question.
Awesome.
All right. I won't put that one down.
All this, I was less than 6. Like I'm thinking, she's talking earlier years, and I have a couple more memories from that time, and then not much else from that time at all. And then I really don't know where things lie in my timeline. It's all just quite fuzzy after that, as far as time goes.
Did you see the movie Jupiter Ascending?
No.
Okay.
What's that?
It's a movie you need to watch.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
I'm
from
writing
the
it down.
Wachowskis.
I think it's on Netflix right now.
Jupiter Ascending?
Ascending,
Yeah, it's from the Wachowskis. They did the Matrix stuff.
And Bound. I don't know if you saw that ever.
Bound. Is that with what's her name?
Jennifer Tilly and Gina Gershon.
Gina Gershon, yes. That's a great movie.
That's
a really, really good movie. And Guido the Killer Pimp's in it too.
Yeah.
Joe Pantaleone.
Yes, baby.
Caesar, he played Caesar in that. What a great role that was too. I saw that movie as a double feature with something else I don't remember, but that was the first Wachowski brothers movie I saw, prior to The Matrix, and I was.
Did you just misgender them?
What's that?
You just misgendered them, God damn it. I'm kidding.
Did you really? I guess I missed it.
Right, you're right, I did. The Wachowskis.
Chander.
The Wachowskis.
Sorry. I apologize.
The Wachowski trannies. I don't know what they are now. I just know they're not dudes.
I think they're transgender women now. So
yeah, I think so. I think I think they're sisters. But I didn't. I kind of forgot about that. I was
teasing.
Jerry.
I'm sorry.
Respect. Okay.
Okay, wait. So anyway, Jupiter Ascending has a big subtext about bees in it that you'll find interesting.
Yeah.
It's not a subtext. It's
too.
a minor subplot, put it that way.
Yeah, and it's quite significant. I love bees.
Oh, about the bees. Okay, interesting.
That's why I brought it up. It wasn't for no reason.
Oh, I'm sure there was a connection there.
All right, let's get this train back on the track, boys.
Choo choo.
Okay, so back in this early period, Chander, back here, I'm kind of skipping around a little because I want to make sure we get through. And into some dreams and stuff. But I want, it's important in Nox Mente that we get foundational stuff. We get a feel for you.
Yeah.
And so you had kind of these early, I guess, social and animal worldly traumatizing things. The bees wanting to play with the dinosaurs in good faith and realizing that that's like a social thing. You don't walk into someone's house, even if they're your friends, that kind of thing. What was your relationship with pop culture at the time? What did you like? Comics, cartoons?
My pop culture took place, after that time, and I was really into it. And we share all three of us share some things about that. But first, I want to highlight one thing that's real important from that other time. May I?
Okay, yes, absolutely.
I again flashes, but I was playing football alone. I was dressed up. I had like a helmet and stuff on and pads, and then I was playing inside the house. My grandmother was there, and I just remember I was running with the ball, and suddenly I ran into the fireplace. The helmet cracked, and I heard my grandmother scream, and I saw red, and then
Mm.
flashes of things until I got to the hospital. And I still have the scar. It was big, and so I feel it was probably my first NDE. And I have an OBE memory that's very strange. I remember someone in a fucking mask, doctors, lots of them, right? All around me, like in an OR. Um, and they were they put something on my face. I don't know if it was like the anesthesia or something, but I didn't like it, and I ripped it off my face. But the hose came off, and the thing stuck on my face, and they freaked out. From what I remember, right? It's probably exaggerated, but they freaked out. I remember them kind of yelling at me and struggling, some kind of struggle to put that thing back on me. And then I was above it all, like looking down, and the whole room was like white, and they were all just kind of standing around, and everything kind of settled down for a little bit, and that's all I remember.
That
And
is a
it
big
freaks me the hell
deal.
out now when I see people in masks. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that is a big deal. And this was around the age of 6-ish, right? In that frame.
Yeah, maybe even younger.
And so, and you have no memory of, like, no memory of the unconsciousness that was in this period. Just that struggle with the intubation or mass that was happening.
Correct. Yeah, and it's funny you mention that because I will go into them. I'm sure I've had other NDEs, and I've never remembered anything about that part. I always remember going and then coming back very
Yeah,
clearly.
that's my experience too. It's like lights on, lights off.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
yeah,
theory around that, so I've been glad to learn that we're not alone.
I could talk about it for days.
You
really.
had an experience
I
though that
did.
Chandler and I
Oh,
did not.
Oh,
We had lights out, lights on.
you had the experience on the other side or at that other spot?
don't know.
Holy mackerel, man!
I
Yeah,
was,
Jerry was out there in
yeah,
a Marvel universe.
yes,
Wow, maybe I could get you to talk about that
I would
sometime
love
on
to.
You need to have Jerry on your show, just Jerry, not on a panel.
That's exactly. That's what I want to encourage him. There's so much of Jerry that I would like to dig into. So we'll put him on the
There's a
spot
lot of
again.
me to dig into.
Oh, baby.
That's what she said.
That is what she said. All right, back to the show.
I'll take nuts on that, please. All right. So, and maybe some sprinkles.
Whipped cream.
So, yeah. Oh, okay. We might as well go with the cherry as well.
Definitely.
See, here we go. We need a drummer. All right. So, back here early on. So, in this period, so just young, where the other stuff started to come in, your ideas of the world and all that. I want to get here at this point where we have stuff that was affecting you that was considered cultural stuff, so pop culture stuff, and also your relationship with the outside world. So if you grew up in a nature setting, your relationship with nature, or if you were a city boy, what was your nature? Because the city is actually a form of a natural landscape for people that grow up in inner cities.
Sure. Yeah. Um, well, I grew up mostly. I'm pretty much a Colorado native, and so there's a lot of great nature around here. But pretty much I was a city kid, um, or a suburban kid, I suppose. My family my dad was 50 when I was born, and so he was older, straight out of the Depression era, and my mom was out of the 50s, a kid from that era, and they were not at all into nature, at all. So my times in nature were I got to go to ski camp a couple times, and sometimes friends took me hiking, but I never went camping or anything like that. Weirdly enough, because I am such a nature guy.
Hmm.
Pop culture was big to me. I grew up with TV, and I loved um, definitely cartoons and Saturday morning shows and the Banana Bunch Gang, that kind of stuff, and the Croft Super
Oh
Hour, whatever,
God.
ISIS
I
and
love the
Shazam.
crops. They shaped my world for sure.
Right? I was totally into it.
HR puffin stuff.
Oh yeah, that's
You
right.
can't do a little because you can't do enough. That stuff was crazy. It the whole generation of little kids on acid, even though we weren't.
I still remember Speed Buggy of that too. It was a talking buggy that changed. He would like honk the horn and he'd turn from like this beat up junkyard buggy into this sweet red hot rod
Yes.
buggy.
Oh yeah, it was so awesome. And people think the Teletubbies are wild. Please,
Yeah,
come
right.
on.
Star Trek was big too. The classic series, huge
Yes.
Star Trek.
What about things like, so you're in that territory. I love that. Land of the Lost.
Yep.
Yeah, all that good stuff. Land of the Giants or whatever that was.
Oh, I forgot about that. Well, Dr. Shrinker, is that what you mean? Or the other one where there was, I think there was a Giants one
Dr.
too.
Shrinker. Now, see, I forgot about that. Jerry, do you remember Dr. Shrinker?
I do not.
I remember that.
Yeah, that ray gun, and I don't know what his deal was. He was, why was he shrinking everybody? I don't even remember why.
I don't either, but that has set off a weird memory. Okay, I'm going to explore that after the show.
Me
Okay,
too, because I can
so
see the gun and the little actor and then the main villain very clearly, and that's all.
yeah, this is fun. I love all this stuff. I mean, I think, and there's a reason why this stuff's actually hit a revival, and modern day people have picked up on it because it's fun stuff. That original Batman, which is older than us, but it was in reruns for us.
The '60s, oh, that's still my favorite. That is what Batman's about to me, is
Yeah,
the little campiness,
yeah. Oh, a total campy.
Batman movie is awesome.
Yeah. So, all right, back here, young Chander, what was your relationship with the dreamscape, with dreaming and all that?
I had this time when I wasn't sleeping well at all, and when I did go to sleep, I would see the bees, or I would see bees. I guess I didn't
Oh,
mention that yet, but like swarms of bees. Um, they weren't like angry bees, but they were always there, and they scared the hell out of me. And that would happen. I would wake up and they'd be gone, but then I'd be, interestingly, I had this nightstand dresser thing that I would see faces in when I woke up, like white, scary faces. And that happened a lot. And I don't remember much of a resolution, except that they wound up telling me it was all in my head and don't worry about it. And so, dreams were not vivid then, but ever since then in my life, they've been a lot like my memory, like in color, really crisp, really clear, and usually um, with a message.
yeah. Do you, and so how serious did you take dreams at that point? I mean, especially if you were getting some sort of allegorical stuff, a messages.
Well, I'm not sure how to answer that. Because the time, my brain is definitely has some issues with, especially time tracking and numerical things and stuff and dates and stuff, and partially due to traumatic brain injuries.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The first one and more, but and ADHD. So forgive me if I'm
Oh,
jumping
you
in.
got a whole cocktail going there, Chander.
A little anxiety, a little depression, but anything
Oh,
goes.
okay. Well, that stirred or muddled. I mean,
At least I don't drink anymore.
right,
So.
there we go. That would really top it off. So, all right,
But
but
the,
still, the question stands no matter where you kind of fit it in the timeline.
Well, I didn't really think much about dreams as a kid. They didn't mean much else to me than anything else in life. They weren't special, in other words. But um, at some point, and I'm not sure when, a little bit preteen, I started to really get into them. You know, I started to wonder about the mystery of them and stuff. Um, what I do remember though is from a very young age, I remember when I did have a hard time going to sleep, I would do one of two things. One of them is I would trace my, I would wonder like who is my dad's dad and who is my dad's dad's dad and who is my dad's dad, and I just kind of keep going back and back and back and back and back and back until I was asleep. And if it wasn't that, then I would just close my eyes and literally watch the images, watch the movie. And I really got into that for a long time. And so that was kind of a gateway to the dreams, enjoying the dreams more.
Yeah. Yeah. I like this idea of, I still do that. My mind still does like that tracking back. So I can relate to that. Like, who
All the way
was
to the mud
my,
plug.
w- well,
I don't know how long
you're
ago that might have
full of
been.
the keywords tonight, Chander.
Oh, I got them all from out there, believe me.
So, okay, wait a minute. Were you brought up in a religious household?
Very. My mom was Southern Baptist, and my dad wasn't. He was just Christian.
Oh
So I
my,
got it.
Southern Baptist in Colorado.
Yeah, she was from North Carolina, and they were hardcore.
Okay, okay, this makes sense then. I was like, Colorado, no Southern Baptist up there.
They were in a place from North Carolina that's still nowhere called Salisbury.
Yeah. So, how did that affect you as a young person? Were you into it?
Mm. It didn't mean much when I was little. When again, probably about preteen years, I guess I found Jesus of some kind. They went to Sunday school, but they didn't, and church, but that's about all. That was the extent of our participation. But I was going to Sunday school, and I had some sort of, I found God, or whatever, and it lit me up to Christianity for a while, and then at some point I just um, I don't I think I know what it was. I got into I'm sorry, I was just so my I remember there was some kind of familial thing. I don't know. There was some kind of blow up and some kind of problem between my mom and my dad. They frequently had a lot of violent issues together, and so one of them was over religion one day, and they quit going to church after that.
Oh,
And so I did too, and um, I was kind of in this space of loss for religion for a very short time, and then I discovered the martial arts and um, found meditation and Buddhism and other things.
so in this period where you were kind of in the Netherlands
Mm.
spiritually, what was going on for you internally? Was this playing out in any dreams? Obviously, there was some turmoil.
You mean the like the family issues or
Well,
religion?
you had been going to Sunday services and got into the church and you found Jesus, and then all of a sudden, you were kind of stripped of having that relationship for whatever reasons with your parents, but it took it away from you in that way. And there's a narrative here we see with the dinosaurs, right? Where you went in to play and you got in trouble and all you wanted to do with play is play with those dinosaurs. So we've got this kind of setup going in your psyche. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm wondering about where you were emotionally in this kind of split up with Jesus, with religion in your life that had kind of been a big enough influence that you found something significant for you at that time. And then you're stripped from what you think is the relationship was your experience of going to church.
Wow, good questions. Um, I just remember that I must have suppressed some memories because the church was a lot more. I was a lot more involved in the church when I was younger because I remember there was a singing puppet program. They had it was a big thing. It was a puppet ministry, and it was produced on TV and stuff. And so I was really into the puppet ministry thing, and I went into this thing that was sort of like a Boy Scouts within the church, and I was really into it. And so yeah, it really meant a lot. I think more than I realized until you brought that up, how much I actually lost uh, when that happened,
Yeah.
and maybe has that probably explains some of my underlying anger at organized religion sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, of course. This stuff all registers on other levels. And that's why I'm asking, in this kind of Netherland period where all that stopped, do you recall having any kind of thing go on in your dream world?
Mm, no.
And so, also, if we put yourself back in that space where you're kind of after the church and before martial arts, in that kind of liminal space where you feel a little bit lost, is there what was going on for you, if you can recall, in that space of time? Do you have any memories in there?
I remember. I think the last thing I did at the church, and it was after my parents quit going, but I was the Sunday school did a trip to a YMCA camp over in Wyoming, and it was an overnighter kind of a thing, and so I went with that. And I remember along that trip, everybody was, pro Jesus. It was a thing, right? It was a retreat to celebrate, and I was, my head was already thinking about ninjas, and so I was already when I was sitting there and people were singing and doing their prayers and stuff, I was pretending I was, crawling on the ceiling and watching the thing, and just being a ninja and doing other things. And uh, someone saw me doing some practice one time. This is before I was training officially, but I was doing some practice on my own. And so then they tried to make it. They were like, well, ninjas are really about Jesus, and and they said we're going to form a ninja group for our Sunday school, and we think you should be a part of it. And it was just really weird.
I have a Ninja Jesus t-shirt.
Sweet.
That I think that's awesome, though.
But it's not, I mean, ninjas are Shinto, I think.
Right.
Actually, yeah, you're a lot closer. You're a lot closer to Shinto.
But
Esoteric.
just as a little kid, that
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
adrift. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was adrift, and this was taken away what you thought was your access to all that. And then there's this new love in your life, which is the idea of ninjas and all that.
Yeah.
And there's a bridge there because they're saying it's connected to something that was very powerful for you, which was your relationship with Jesus.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is significant, and this is a real bridge, and it's bridging you from all that kind of stuff you love that was taken from you that goes back, as we already talked about, to the dinosaur.
Wow. Fascinating to think about it that way.
So as we move into that, this is how you got into. So did that group? What did they start? Did this idea play out in you getting involved in martial arts at this time, or was it still just kind of how
I,
did that bridge over?
I wanted to, but I wasn't old enough. I was only 12 at the time, and the dojos wouldn't accept anybody. Most of them wouldn't accept anybody under 18 at that time. But the one I trained at, eventually, I had to be 13. So I kind of had to wait at the dojo door before they let me train.
Yeah. So, all right. And then back in this time period, let's get some bullet points here. So you had that first NDE when you were around 6-ish, right?
Much,
Somewhere
I think
in
even
there.
younger, probably 3 or so. I think 4.
Okay.
I don't know. Actually, I don't know.
But early. Okay, so you had it very early with those
Pre-6.
with that very significant imagery. What's the time? So when are the time checkpoints for the others that happened?
I didn't mean to do that. Well, see, that's the thing is, unfortunately, it's all wibbly wobbly for me. I can say that um, the church stuff happened after 7 years old, and all that other stuff that wasn't involving church topics happened before I was 6. I think.
But I'm trying to figure out your timelines with the NDEs.
Oh, oh, you mean okay? So there was that first one when I was quite young, and then my other ones were as an adult.
Do you remember around the ages for the other ones?
Let's see. So please forgive me again. I'm going to probably space details and stuff. It's a brain thing, and I inevitably will miss probably something important. But I think let me see here. If you were to count one where it was just a near miss and I didn't actually go anywhere, I was just almost killed. It happened about when I was 16.
16. Remember, near death, near. So it qualifies.
That qualifies because I would have been killed if I hadn't been killed, or if I hadn't
Right.
been murdered.
Right. You got close.
Yeah, definitely. I was
Okay,
close.
so we've got one at 16-ish.
Yes, one. The next one when I was 19, and yeah, and the next one after that was, um, let's see. I think that's going to be one in training. So how old was I then? About 20, 24, no, 23. And then another one when I was, let's see, it would be 2011. So I was 41.
Okay.
And then one shortly after that, and like when I was 44.
My, you are
I know, right?
always 3 minutes to death. Okay, so
The last few, I really, honestly, I'm not. There's no judgment about this or anything. It's just I didn't really have a reason to come back, and so I don't know why I did. I don't know what drew me back here, because whatever took me out took me far, and so what the hell brought me back?
okay, so this is where I want to get with this is since there have been several here, you had mentioned earlier with the one that happened when you were very young that was just basically lights out, lights on. And you'd mentioned that that had happened and been kind of the experience with the others. Were they all that way, or are there any in here that actually had some imagery where you had an experience?
Well, not in the part where I was out, but the consistency that I found is the sort of a dimming of everything.
Yeah.
I'm prone to vasovagal syncope too, which is it's a fainting thing, and so that happens too. It gets real dark, but it's a little bit different because it gets dark and then it gets real narrow and it stays there, and then there's some kind of weird auditory thing, and I get sort of a tingly, numbish sort of a thing. Nothing is painful, nothing is scary. Um, just a little bit worried because I know something's changing, but not really scared. And then lights out, and then waking up, oh, so gently, like I've never woken up from sleep so gently, except for the one time where I had flatlined and I woke up to them pumping my chest in the hospital and my ex-wife crying her eyes out next to me, which was weird.
Yeah. So in this all right, so this is intriguing. So when you mentioned some of this kind of possibly auditory stuff, does it feel electrical? Did you
Yes,
have any yeah, like snapping or pulsing? I don't know what I get that. So
I get that in waking life now.
yeah,
Yeah.
me too. It feels electrical. I find that interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so thank you for that, and we'll bounce back and forth here. So let's
Cool.
get into the architecture, and I just mean the general construct of how you dream. So how do you dream? Is it color? Is it black and white? What is the general theme in your dreamscape?
Definitely color, very vivid, and a little surreal. No, quite surreal, although more real than right now somehow. You know, do you remember the Viewfinder things when you were a kid, and it had those little pictures you could look at,
Yes.
and they were sort of 3D-ish.
The vis-a-vis, yeah.
So it's almost like that.
I love that. I think you're the first person who kind of brought that idea up.
Hmm.
That's interesting. I loved those, by the way. I still love those.
I have a lot of them, Star Trek ones
S-
and all kinds of weird ones. Big
When
thing.
oh, and that was another thing with your relationship with pop culture. Clearly, and of course, coming out of the same generation of the Crofts and all that wild stuff that we all got programmed with in Gen X.
Mhm.
It was definitely a period of, so the stuff you pointed out. So we've got a love of sci-fi and like other worlds and weirdness, right? That
Totally, yeah.
okay.
I was always a
And
weird kid. I thought I was a leprechaun for a long time when I was young, and I convinced everybody else that I was too.
I could see that you kind of give off a little bit of that. Well, at least the way I see them. So,
Yeah,
uh,
definitely tied to the Bay for sure. I agree.
yeah, absolutely. So, okay. So, with all that though, and in this dreamscape, so those vis-a-vis things, I'm not sure exactly what they're called. I wonder, Jerry, do you know what those
You,
are called?
I want to say Viewfinder, but that's not it. It's
Viewmasters.
Viewmasters.
Yes, thank you.
Good job. Nice call.
Thank you. Thank you. Lord have mercy.
Now I'm gonna go find one at the art in a thrift store.
So when you describe your dreams a lot like that, does this makes me think or inspires me to think, Chander, that you're not, even though that's looking through those, it's not a first person experience, it's slightly removed. Do you
Yeah,
can you
yeah.
explain deeper how you are experiencing them in that slightly removed but still kind of behind the player's eyes?
How did you? I mean, do you? I don't know ever know how to describe that. That is what it's like. Is it what it's like for you, or
Oh yeah, I mean, I have that too, but
so? Yeah.
so carry on, please.
Oh no. Well, so yeah, it's like kind of a first person, but not quite, and it's a kind of a third person, but not quite. Um, I don't know. It's like it's it's not quite an omniscient point of view.
Right, because you're behind the eyes, but
Yeah.
but distant in a way.
Uh-huh. And I believe that wherever I'm at is whatever it's supposed to be, even though it may not look like that place. I think it's my bedroom or whatever. And I think this person, even if they have no face, which happens sometimes, even though the rest of them's clear, I know it's the person I think it is.
That's interesting. So that's very interesting. So you'll have, okay, let's dive into that a minute, Chander. So characters in the dreamscape that you know who they are clearly, and yet they will have really no characteristics that you would identify because there's no characteristics, but you know who they are.
Yeah, actually, three things like that happen. One is when they have no characteristics. The other is when they are someone else entirely that maybe I know or don't know, but it's not them, but it's them.
Yes.
Or it's a dead person. Like now and then I'll especially kind of in the last few years, my mom and dad will be in my dreams, and it seems very life is like they're here, and almost like I'm living with them or something. It's really weird. Um,
Yeah, that's interesting. That's very interesting. It's interesting that that gets grouped together as well. Okay, so we have an idea of your dreamscape and all this. Do you at any point in your life have a relationship in your dreamscape, in your dream life of getting full consciousness? So this could be, you can call this full lucidity, or even straight up astral projection if you're out of, if you get that sensation that you're actually traveling and you're out of your shell.
Yes, to all that. Yep, I've had experiences where I've been in the dream and I wake up in the dream, and then I need to try to wake myself up. Sometimes has led to sleep paralysis and sometimes not. But like for some reason something something outside is calling me and it manifests in the dream, and then I like realize that it's a dream. Or I've also done astral projection, intentionally or not, and then also what was the other thing you said?
Well, full on out of bodies.
Yeah, I thought you said one other thing though, but yes.
Okay, so let's look at lucidity here. So when you say that something outside your body is calling you to wake up, and that's, you realize that you're actually in the dream, a lot of times you'll have to pee, right? Or
Yeah,
something's going on and you realize you're actually dreaming in the
yeah,
dream, because
yeah.
but because you're aware that something's going on, and urinating is an easy common example. uh what is that experience like then? What are you usually going through and you're like, okay, I'm in this dream now because I know that my physical body, there's something going on there. Do you usually just jump out, or do you explore that space of being aware?
Um, well, I remember a funny example where I'll first I'll say that I have explored a little bit, but mainly I unfortunately just kind of transitioned to waking. But one strong example is I was dreaming that I was in Antarctica and the cast of Three's Company was there, and we were all kind of just hanging out. And then Janet and Chrissy and Jack got on this ice slide and slid down, and they were all holding each other, going, "We're cold." And then I was like, I woke up and I was laughing my ass off, and I was naked and my windows were open and I was freezing cold.
I love Miss Roper. Like, I love those moments.
Yeah.
That's come and knock on my door.
Come and knock on my ice wall.
I love
And the
this.
Ropers was definitely better than Mr. Pearly,
Yeah. Oh,
Somehow.
yeah. Oh, that's funny stuff, though. So, right. And that's a good connection between the physical body and this point of consciousness that is somewhere else but attached to. Uh, okay. So, within this idea of lucidity in the dreams, have there been times when you're full lucidity and there's nothing calling you, or you're not aware, you're not connected to your physical body in any way, and yet you're aware you're dreaming? Do you get any of that?
Oh. You mean like, mm, you,
So
you
you're
mean
awake
like,
when you're dreaming. In your dream, you're fully awake.
yeah. And you're talking about an OBE within the dream? Is that what I heard you say?
Well, it can lead to an out of body. Sometimes there's this, for me, I can only speak for myself, but I mean, I've read a lot on this, obviously, and we talk to a lot of people. But for me, the experience of OBE, which is the highest state of lucidity for me, but that's where I'm actually aware and I leave my body and I'm doing stuff. And so I feel this a whole sense of autonomy, that's just, I'm aware that I have an anchor somewhere, but I'm traveling. And then just an extremely lucid dream, it's, I'm traveling within the dreamscape. I'm in the dreamscape, but at the same time, there's not this sense of separation from the body. So that's how I kind of experience it. So there's like there's a dual point of consciousness with the OBEs, in my opinion.
I see that. Well, it's weird because I've done a lot of work in my adult years with shamanistic practices and journeying and esoteric meditations and that kind of stuff, and playing diving into the woo and magic and stuff like that. And so I've had experiences like that in actual life sometimes, and sometimes I get the experience, especially if a traumatic event is happening. It's that dream view where I'm not quite here, but I'm not quite out there. I'm sort of here, or something. I'm not really sure, but a detachment, but tethered.
Yeah.
And I don't recall any specific dream times when that's happened, but when I've intentionally set off to astral travel and then gone to sleep, sometimes I've fallen asleep before. Like I was flying and didn't realize that I had entered that lucid state. I was thinking about it on the way, and that's it. And then suddenly I was flying and woke up. But it didn't last long.
Okay, so when you're having that sensation of flying, what is that like for you?
Well, I've never played with it much. I just remember kind of being.
You don't
I
have
say
to
flying, but it's really
overanalyze here. You don't have to
it's-
overanalyze, Chander. You keep wanting to overanalyze. Let it
I do
flow,
that.
baby.
Thank you. But can I have you just call me every couple hours and tell me that in my life?
Come back to us, take a few breaths and let it flow. So just the idea, think about it, flying in your dreams, what does that evoke for you right now?
Flying sort of like a blimp might fly, or a balloon.
Yeah. And is that enjoyable when you've experienced it?
Yeah, but not. I don't think I've ever made the most of it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to. And we get into those traps where, especially when we're talking to people about dreams and other people that may be gurus in the dream department, and it can bring our self-esteem down. And we don't need that. Your experiences are yours and they're valid no matter what. And it's, this is the damage in these some of this talk in the world with stuff like this. It's all right. And this is what I continue to say and keep finding. Every time I'm out of body, I don't experience that silver cord. It's all right. I have been shamed not to feel 2020. But this is all right. So let's talk about, as you mentioned earlier, you have encountered those that have passed in the dreams. When we're talking about, some of them can be faceless. So let's dive into a couple of those memories, if you could bring those to us.
I wrote a little note too. It's almost like they shapeshift sometimes.
Yeah.
And I see that in people too. Again, in normal life, not often or anything. I don't see things and I don't hear voices, but I do get messages. And sometimes if I'm in a certain space with people, I almost like things darken just a little bit and their face changes to someone else entirely. And whenever I've mentioned that to somebody, they've always been stunned and said that that's like a past life they've been told about, or some kind of something they're familiar with. And it's really odd. But in the dream world, if they have no face, like I don't remember really any specific circumstances except general, really mundane things. Like I'm seeing a woman walk to me in a hallway wearing like a dress, but her face is just, there's nothing. It's like a green screen artifact or something, It's not there exactly, but it's sort of placeholder.
So, all right, with that, how were you able to know that, okay, let's go this route. The ones that were dead, that were ghosts, you knew them, right? There are people that had died that you've known, like a grandmother or something, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's happened several times with my mom and dad. A lot of people, I know a lot of people have passed, but most of them don't come to my dreams. But my mom and dad have been. But it's not like they ever act like they're dead or trying to tell me anything or anything. It's a life thing. It's like mundane life that I'm living with them, and nothing has ever been different than that.
Yeah. And so, well, and that's something that's very key for me too. It's like the relationship actually carries on,
Mm.
especially if you're not emotionally, for my mom, I was really emotionally attached. So it was a hard time for me to get to the point where I could just have a relationship with her without being in tears or something. Uh, so that's interesting. And I like that. And I imagine that comes from your praxis of, of your spiritual praxis, really. Um,
Mm.
so when you experience them and it's just mundane stuff, what is that like for you though? What's the experience like? Do you have any examples for us?
Actually, one happened not long ago, a couple weeks ago or something, and it was they were they were angry with me about something, but it wasn't like they were yelling at me. They were just vaguely angry with me, and we were all three in this place, a home, and I um, I don't remember any specifics about why they were angry or the interactions that I had with them, except that I was sort of, when they weren't present with me, when I wasn't visually seeing them, they were. It was like they were kind of hanging out, like close by, like looking over my shoulder, kind of a thing, and waiting for me to do whatever I was doing wrong or whatever that they were angry with me about. Waiting to catch me with that, I guess. Well, is this a
Ooh.
therapy session? Because it sounds like
Well,
it.
dreams in general. No, this is interesting. And when you came out of that particular one, Chander, what was the mood? How did you feel coming out of that particular experience?
I woke up still thinking that they were here. That at first, it just for a bit, it was like I was still in that dream state. I woke up and I wasn't here in my home. I was where I was in my dream,
Yeah.
but not visual. I mean, I thought I was, if that makes sense. And slowly, I just kind of shook it off and realized that it was a dream. And but there was that transitional state. It's pretty strange. That I don't know if I wanted to hold on to the dream state for some reason or what, but oh, I remember one time, a different time though, when it turned into a sleep paralysis thing, and it was uh, that's a different thing altogether, I suppose.
Let's go there.
um, I had someone when I was a kid when I had the bees coming around and stuff, and it was always real scary. And I'm the kind of person that when I feel sleep paralysis, I am like, I start trying to yell and I can't say a darn word. And I am like fighting or physically trying to break out of it. And I'll punch and I'll kick and it goes so darn slow. I can't, but it breaks me out. And eventually I'll start like wiggling something or something and, say something audibly and wake up. Um, and there's been a couple times when I felt that there was something I was fighting against, like an entity of some kind, to just kind of make that blunt. Um,
Yeah.
and I remember the first time that I experienced that it might be another entity, it was very scary. He said, "I'm going to get you for what you did to my brother,"
Mm.
and he held me down. And I was like, I still don't know what that could be alluding to, but it terrified me. And I broke out of that and never saw that guy again. Um, and never went back to Fort Collins either. For long anyway.
Heed the warning. How old were you around when that happened?
About 19. It was when I was first going to college, and I had a lot of woo experiences in Fort Collins, some attached with psychedelics and some not.
Ooh, I'm intrigued by all that.
Who else is in Fort Collins? Why does that name sound so familiar?
Let's see. What's big out there? Collins. I'm not sure. Is the CSU is there, Colorado State University, but
I don't
it used to be a
remember.
nothing town. It's pretty big now, but I can't think of anything special.
Jerry's got someone there.
Did
There's
he-
a
No,
reason
I
why.
don't, but
there's
I remember there's some kind of woo connection there. I'll look.
That's
I'll
what I'm
figure. I'll
saying.
find it.
There's something there for you, Jerry. Bring it to us when you
Nobody
look
I
it up.
know
And
though. I'll look. Unless
Look it up.
Solaris is there, that could be what it is.
Solaris is somewhere around there. I'm not sure.
Is she really? That's
Yeah,
funny
she's-
because I've been thinking about her recently, and I randomly just
Oh,
some
you
Solaris
should-
Blue Raven, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You should get her on your show, Chander.
Oh fuck! If she would do it, I would.
She would
I know.
totally
I
do
thought
it.
that she's kind of
Oh,
taking a
yeah.
step back right
Solaris
now.
is very approachable. Just send her a DM or something.
Yeah, send her some
Oh.
nudes.
I will do. I got them ready just in case.
I
So
just
she's cool,
released
though.
a chat with her today, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, on the Cosmic Salon. Anyway,
Oh,
so let's get
I
back
love
to
that.
this.
Loving that.
All right. So the idea of sleep paralysis and that particular experience. So okay, so what I wanted to kind of dive into here is when that experience of when you can't seem to get control of your physical body, right? And there's
Hate
that
that.
fear.
Yeah.
It's scary. Have you ever had that sensation that you think, I know I have, so I'm just asking this question. Some people don't get this, but I'm like, did I possibly die? Am I dead here and I can't get access to the shell? Has
I
that
think so.
ever come across for you?
Yeah, I think so. I say I think so because it's weird because I feel like I'm some part of me knows or doesn't want to believe that I might be dying, but some part of me thinks that I might be. Is really terrified of that exact thing. but also just being restrained, I don't like. But and that
Yeah,
makes
same
me,
here. I have some real issues with that kind of thing. I'm sure from my childhood.
me too. Yeah.
Okay, so also with sleep paralysis, you mentioned entities as well, and you gave us that really good example. By the way, that was a good example. What other examples with those kinds of, let's just call them maybe archonic or archontic, whatever we want to call them, entities that don't seem favorable to your enterprise. Have you had other experiences with such entities?
I've never thought of them as being like of a family or anything, or of a tribe of entities connected in any way. But yeah, are you talking in dream like that liminal space,
Yeah,
or
in dream
perspective place?
space. In dream space in particular. So with or without a paralysis experience, but just in your dream space, other things that seem not friendly.
Yeah, typically it's not not a lot. Typically my dreams are either mundane or just kind of Twin Peaks-ish, or really really funny. But when they are scary, I have had a few of those, and when they are, it is absolutely terrifying.
Do you have some examples besides the one you gave us?
Trying to think of. Not okay. I can give you sort of a theme or something. There's I remember vaguely some as a mundane sort of a thing, and I'm dreaming. I'm thinking about the guys in. I lived in a house for a while with 5 other guys in Fort Collins, and it had to be a haunted house. But there, and so I remember just kind of being there in my dream with them in a party scene, and suddenly they all turned on me, but they weren't them. And that's a funny thing, is because they looked like them, and I was with them in that house, but they were not them.
Mhm.
And I I'm thinking right now, like I had nowhere to retreat except sort of in, like I'm thinking like I can sort of suck myself in and back and just kind of away from the whole scene. And that's all I remember. They didn't touch me or anything. And I don't remember waking up or anything, but that's all I recall.
This is interesting too. So the idea of going in and back is interesting. Is this something that kind of survival mechanism, and clearly it worked, has that been something you've used before? Was that pure instinct?
My instinct and my power seems to be standing firm and going stop kind of thing,
Hmm.
and staying real firm. When I do that, I feel no fear and I feel powerful and I feel that nothing is going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's some heavy training you've done to get to that.
Mm.
It usually is with people because the fight or flight mechanism is a very strong one. And so standing your ground and facing a fear is a very big deal on an internal spiritual level. So,
It's cool because thank you, and it's cool because in recent times I get almost that wave of fear start to rise, but then it stops. So yeah, it's interesting to be in that place and expect to have to push down some fear or rise above it, and then not to have it even be an issue is weird.
yeah. So let's linger around that Fort Collins period when you were around 19, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned some supernatural or paranormal type experiences. What's going on? Okay, so first, let's look at this because we have some interesting dream imagery in this period. What was going on in your outer life? Okay, so just to get some
Mhm.
more background, what ages were you when your parents died? Because you don't have living parents now.
Correct. Uh, my mom died shortly after that period. I think it was 20.
Okay.
Um, and my dad died when he was 88, so that would be he was born in 20, so I guess 2008.
Okay. So this time, so the Fort Collins period when you're 19-ish right there, that is kind of this is an important time. Your mamo dies here in this time period where you have paranormal activity going on, supernatural stuff,
Mm,
uh,
love that.
provocative dreams. What was some of the supernatural paranormal stuff that went on? And you already mentioned the house must have been haunted, is what you said.
Yeah,
So take us into this space.
this space was uh, it was a really old house and was on the corner of um, it was on the corner of an intersection, and it was on the very edge of town near the railroad tracks, where after this was basically nothing till Wyoming. So it was kind of a it was kind of a spooky little place, and it was sort of off on its own, and it was very big. Again, there were five of us living there, so we each had our own bedroom, and there were two kitchens, and there was this very narrow, creaky stairway, very narrow, creaky stairway, the only way to go up to the second floor. And on the side of the stairway, there was a panel that was for like a dumb waiter, I guess.
Mhm.
And that's where I saw what I think is probably the first ghost that I saw. Um, there was shortly after we moved in, I was with somebody. It's a little vague, but somebody was with me, I know, and I was decorating my room. I was real goth at the time, and I was putting black trash bags in my room, and it was really cool looking. And
I remember that period. The black trash bags. I didn't, but I had a boyfriend. He had the black trash bags going.
it has quite an effect.
Oh, it certainly does.
And
Anyway,
my room was all in that, so it was all black. It was a gothed out room. The other guys were more kind of uh, more jockey, if anything, even though they were friends of mine. But I was the goth guy, and a lot of woo stuff happened in my corner of the house.
of course. Well, you were in a necromantium if it was all blacked out with those bags.
Yeah, yeah. And then so when I was putting those up, I just the dumb for some reason the dumbwaiter was open, and something went up like it was whitish, greenish, mostly whitish, and something like it was kind of like it's like a white sheet. It kind of just went up, but it was so fast, and I couldn't quite catch it out of the corner of my eye. So I might be adding to it, but we both we were like, there's no one upstairs, there's no apparatus in the dumbwaiter, and there was nothing in there when we looked, and we had no idea what had happened. But she or he or whatever, they said that they had seen something too, but they kind of brushed it off. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't to me, that was a really, I mean, it was a presence thing. It wasn't just a little visual anomaly. There was something that was going up.
Yeah, so there was the visual through your periphery, but you also felt that experience.
Yeah, and I will say that I have extraordinarily good peripheral vision, and I made a point to train that. And so I did catch out of this, my eye, but I have actually quite clear peripheral vision. And by the time I looked, it was still there, and so I caught it. I caught it, like a full image of it, but not enough to see what it was.
And so what other strange happenings happened around that period, around that house, around you?
Well, there was a lot of psychedelics going on at that house,
So when
and
you say that, are we talking acid? Are we talking mushrooms? What are we talking? I think so. You're 19ish. I was doing those things at that time in that same time period, essentially.
Seems like the right time to do it.
I'm just guessing because a lot of us in that, that time period kind of was, that's what was going on since we're about the same age. Yeah.
That makes me wonder about what was going on like in the world at that time that was influencing that. Huh. Yeah, it was mostly acid. There were mushrooms too.
Yeah.
Mushrooms never only treated. I only had a bad experience once with mushrooms, but acid was prevalent there, and it was like it was almost a classic college house. There was always a party and stuff, and when there wasn't a party, someone was tripping or everybody was tripping.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, we just weird stuff happens, of course, when you're there. But there was a lot of movement around that didn't like physically affect the place, but things were moving around a lot. And the only time that that I had like an actual encounter that I could think of, it was I mean, it was a full blown acid trip on my part, and that led to one of my NDEs, and it yeah, that was a huge point for me in my awareness, I guess, and my religion and everything.
Well, could you tell us about what it was that led to that NDE and the NDE itself?
Sure. So I was kind of, sometimes I was partying with psychedelics, and sometimes I was using them intentionally. But at this time, everybody just got let out for Christmas break, so there was hardly anybody in town, and I invited people over to have a little party, and I was I was the only one I was the only one at home first, so I dropped some acid, and was thinking it'd be a great time. And then people started showing up a little while later. No one else did any psychedelics, but between that time and the time they showed up, I was listening to some Jimi Hendrix, and Purple Haze got real dark. Jimmy was kind of angry there. He was
yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah, and shortly after my girlfriend at the time showed up, and this is a time when she shapeshifted into an alien cat.
Mm-hmm.
And her friend also did same, her female friend whom I knew, and I was starting to not be well. Like I was sweating, and starting to feel like I had to get away, kind of thing. And so they recognized that, and they saved me. So we went over to her place, and it was a cold, snowy night. We were all inside, and I was trying to chill out, and she was actually, she was telling me about, I was saying that I was feeling like something. I said I felt like snakes going up my spine, and I
Yeah.
had no idea about Kundalini and whatever, but she was telling me that was probably the Kundalini thing, and I just remember that in retrospect. That has nothing to do with, well, I shouldn't say that, never mind.
It has everything to do with it. It's attached to the story.
Right. Well, shortly after she told me that, I don't remember what developed, but for some reason, some of my other male friends came over, like my best friend was there, and they were all really comforting, good people, and I was in good company. And suddenly, I started to feel like I was in hell, and that, like, literally, and that these people were actually demons, and they were deceiving me. And
Very Jacob's ladder.
oh my God, and I saw that not long after that.
Oh shit.
With that girlfriend who became my first wife. And she, the whole movie, she was like, that this reminds me of that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I don't know, I ran away, and they were trying to, get me. And I just started stripping clothes because I was in hell and I was hot. So I just started taking everything off, going down the road, middle of the road, just running naked, snow coming down. And then for some reason, I thought the only way to get out of here is to eat the desiccant. I tried to throw myself in front of cars.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but it was so, my timing and stuff was so off that I wasn't in danger of that. But my friends were like, "What the hell are you doing?" And they were running after me, and I kept breaking away. They would try to grab me, and I, would get away. And I woke up. I was buried in a ditch under the snow, and there were like police lights and stuff, and so they came and they got me, and they put me in an ambulance, and the ambulance ride became a shuttle ride to purgatory, and
Oh,
hell cab, yeah. Totally hell cab. And I just remember I felt like I had to make a decision between evil and good, basically. And I was screaming for the good side, basically. I don't know exactly what I was saying, but I was screaming so loud that my throat was caked with blood the next day, and my toe had been frostbitten. And yeah, so I woke up in the hospital, and that was that. But on the way, like I in my mind, like, I'm not believing this, okay, or whatever, but God was the last person that I talked to in the hell cab, and he said that he would let me go to where I needed to go.
Well, this is remarkable. And I mean, this is a real spiritual crisis. And you had, at this point, you'd already had one earlier in your life when you were in that Netherland between the Jesus stuff and the ninja period, right? So there's a deep sense of spirituality with you always. I mean, you just come to the table with that. But this is a very, very big deal on your journey. And then yet here in a year later, your momos passed, and you get married sometime after that. And so did you this is very significant, Chander. This really is. So after this experience, when the experience is over and you get clarity, and you know how that clarity happens when you're coming back out of an LSD experience, which to me is the best experience, the best part of the experience, because you know you're coming, especially if it's a bad trip, because you're finally able to get out of that terrible experience, and then there's all that clarity of processing everything that happened, and it's almost like fresh air. uh
Yeah. Yeah.
what
Well said. There's that point where you just gotta write it out. And if you do, then yeah, it's that point and you're good.
Right, and it. And so people that don't understand that, and it haven't gone to that experience, don't realize, because it feels like you're stuck. It can feel like you can't get away from it, but the light does come, the day does come, and when it does, the clarity is just absolutely amazing and refreshing. So after that, did you do acid again?
Never.
Yeah, I
I've had
see.
shrooms since then, but never acid.
Yep, I had to have the bad experience too that led to a spiritual crisis as well,
Wow.
and a choice. Yeah, it was definitely, and this is not uncommon. I think that this is a common experience for some people, at least the spiritually inclined type. Uh, okay, so with this idea here, um, I wanted to push into this a little.
Sure.
So in this significant time period that leads to this kind of crossroad for you, where had you been as far as you had started to study martial arts at some point before this, right?
Yeah, age 13.
So right, because you had to wait, it was going to be like 18 or whatever, right, at the dojo.
Well, most of the schools at that time that were teaching lethal arts wouldn't take anybody under 18, but this was a classical Japanese dojo, so they didn't quite view it like that. But you had to be 13, and it was a new kids program. They previously only taught adults.
So you'd already been introduced to these other ideas.
Yeah,
So that's what I
and I'd
guess
gone there
we're
with magic. Actually, I'd gone into Wuland before that time. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. So in here with this crisis that happened, what when you chilled off and you came to later and you have processed all that, what what did you come down to? What did that experience boil down to for you after it was all said and done?
Well, it's come to mean something a little different than when I first came out and woke up, like you were saying. At that time, I was still very very skeptical of everything around me, and um, the doctor who came to see me, the first doctor, he, in my memory, he was a total asshole, and I told him that, and I was like, I don't want you as my doctor. I want another doctor, and I remember him being pissed off. Another doctor eventually came in, but before he left, his nurse came in and they put an IV in me, and it hurt real bad. And I told them to take it out, and they did, and they said that I don't know. They said that it broke or something. Um, Ever since then, I have this little itchy little spot in my arm, and it reminds me of that every freaking time. And I
Right.
just I wonder about that.
Mhm.
But
My suspicious mind does out there over there on the Cheyenne Mountain.
yeah, mine too. And at that time, that wasn't even I didn't even think of anything like that. But I had this weird feeling that, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't feel necessarily. I'm not married to the concept that something might have happened there, but at the time, I was like, "What? What just happened?" I'm not comfortable
Yeah,
with that at all.
yeah.
um,
So when the smoke clears on this experience though, what did you take from it? So then and now. So not where you are now with it, but what after when you get back to your life that was going at the time and this was a significant experience. What did you make of it then?
I wasn't sure how to resolve it, and I I definitely was avoiding it, processing it. I felt like I had made a right choice, and that it is what it was, kind of thing. But my mom started getting real sick at that same time. She had been sick with cancer for many years, but she really started to get sick then, and I started drinking heavily, and that's where
Oh,
that
okay.
transferred to for a good long time.
Okay, so you basically repressed it.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's interesting. And so at this time, when did you oh we apologize. Sorry about that. Uh so all right, get us from that space to where you became the Yogi Chander that you are. And I know that's a big bridge,
Okay.
right? I know that's a big bridge, but it's important. This is a pivotal point in your life, and we've already seen a couple other very pivotal points. But I wanted to see how your dream life weaves around these points. So when did you started drinking, you went in, you kind of repressed this event a bit, your mother's sick, there's all this stuff going on. This is a big pinch point in your life where you could have had a stellium in your chart, who knows what's going on.
Hmm.
uh but then you
And
come
divorced
to
my wife right after that too, real shortly after.
yeah, so see, there's a lot going on right there that's very condensed. And that it's got an NDE in there, all this stuff. And then your mother's moving through her transition and all this. How did you get from that point to finding the eastern, because that's what you do, you're in the eastern path now, basically spiritually.
Kind of on my own chaotic path, but it's heavily influenced by that. Yeah.
Yeah, so how did you
Um,
get there?
well, when my mom died, I was there, and at the moment, and so that was a spiritual moment, of course, and um, at that time I guess I sort of was at peace with whatever I had experienced, but uh, I just didn't deal well with it, and I didn't do any martial arts or anything for a short time there, and then I found someone who was teaching something that I wanted to learn. It was another ninja school. It was a more legitimate one. Anyway, I digress. I found a school that I liked, and I went and started training real hard core with them, and made it my life. And now, like I said, as a kid, I had done this, and that was my way of life up till about age 17, 18 when I went to college. Um, and then it slowed down. But during that time, I was really into the Eastern uh, spirituality. Nimpo and Ninjutsu is, at least the things I was into were basically esoteric Buddhism, and a lot of chanting work, and hand weaving and magic, and Onmyo-do Taoist mystical stuff. And so that always resonated with me. And so I returned to that when I started training again. And at that point, I was lost. I had no idea what to do with my life, and divorced my wife and decided to teach martial arts for a living. So I made that my pursuit. And they were very traditional about the school, and they carried a historical lineage from Japan, and there was all the mysticism there. And my Japanese teacher loved to talk about it, but my American teachers were always like, they didn't want to have anything to do with any woo woo. They were all about the martial arts and making it really militaristic and passing it on, and all about that. And so I was the oddball in that case. But let's see.
Okay, so let's pause here. Were you having, you mentioned recurring dream stuff earlier. What was going on? So in this process, which is many years, I'm sure, where where were you in your dream life? in general?
I was pretty good with my dreams. I didn't have any really strange experiences. I didn't have any anything that was terribly memorable with my dream world, actually. But probably because I was, drinking myself to sleep a lot of the times. I don't know, maybe not, but I can say that when my sleep and I wasn't sleeping well, but in 2011, I went to Chinese medicine school. I had left the martial arts federation. There was a political thing, didn't have anything to do with them anymore. And anyways, fast forward, was training at the Chinese medicine school and restored a lot of things about my health. Started getting better sleep, and my dreams started. They started coming, and they were very just pleasant. That was a real stressful time of my life too. But going through the second divorce at that time and more. But I'd also, that's where I found the Kodotama religion, that is a form of Japanese medicine. And so I dove right into that, just like I did with the martial arts. And it's a way of life that is acupuncture and spirituality and nutrition, and their monk system, because it is a monk-based system. They have this fast. Pardon me, I'm sorry, brain lapse. They have this fast that goes along with the practice, and so I can dive into this. But long story short, I did that. It changed my body. I lost 70 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was huge, and I didn't know I had it to lose, and so that transformed me in a huge way. And it was 11-week fast period, so it was like an elimination diet. You take things away for the first half, and then fast with nothing for a while, and then slowly add things back in. And during that period, it brought up every single physical issue that I had going on, and every spiritual, emotional thing. All my shit came forward, and it was hell. I discovered gout at that time, which is
In the feet,
awful.
yeah.
And so went through that, and anyways, I was getting acupuncture treatments along the way with my mentor, and he assured me that this is a way of clearing all that stuff out and getting a reset.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I totally
if-
did. Not long after I quit drinking, and that made a big difference in things. And yeah, life after that, actually, that was 2011. I stopped going to school in 2013. Had a car accident, and some traumatic things happened there. And things, of course, since that time have been the whole world's been pretty weird since then, I think.
Oh, yeah, it certainly has. So, okay. So with all this, so you were a heavy drinker for years then.
Yeah, I was. I would never say that I was an alcoholic, because I wasn't, but I was definitely drinking to suppress pain and
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, I don't
And
even like ascribing titles to myself, I mean, we move in and out of stuff.
exactly.
And there's a lot of power in what we want to call ourselves or not call ourselves. So
Exactly.
that's a difference. That's another conversation. Anyway, so 2013. So let's look at where you are in contemporary life. And so let's start with, let's say 2013 to now, right? With the weirding years, this long drawn out weirding that we're in. And especially for people that are, at least 30 and older, that can recall how different the world appeared to be at
Hmm.
one point, because there's a dramatic change. And I'm not talking about in, going from black and white to whatever. There's a dramatic difference in things like the color of the sky and, stuff like this. There's the world is just
Absolutely.
somehow visually different, not to mention in all these other ways. So currently, where are you with your state of dreaming, and how do you access those states of consciousness now? Do you have control in the dream world? Is it something that you get in and you just allow to play out? Now, you've given us ideas of this, and I'm assuming these ideas really are rooted in the now. But I just want to, having moved through all this, let's recheck in with how your dream life is now.
Sure. By the way, please, redirect me or slow me down or whatever. If again, I have no concept of time or anything, and I'm all good to be present until you tell me it's time to stop. So
You're in good hands.
thank you. I know I am. That's what she said.
Yes.
That is what she said. Literally.
And I'll take more sprinkles. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
So your dream life nowadays.
My dream life now is great. I get amazing sleep. I sleep on an incline. My bed's on an incline, and I am in amazing health shape in some ways. At least I'm dialed in with my nutrition and my fitness, and that is helping my energy regulation. I sleep really well, so when I dream, it's um, it's a thing. Like I know that I've dreamed, and it's an experience. There was an NDE not long ago, or not an NDE, sleep
OBE?
paralysis.
Oh,
When I was,
paralysis.
yeah, I was, what was happening? I think I was listening. Sometimes I listen to podcasts on the way to sleep, sometimes not. Usually when I do, it's Nox Mente, but this time it was Lighting the Void. And I remember whatever they were talking about uh, uh, like being in that sleep paralysis place and entities being around or something. So I was kind of hearing it, and then I was in that place suddenly, and then there was something like pushing me on my left shoulder, and I was trying to I could like feel it pushing me, and then I kind of woke up and broke out of it, and I was fine. But it was, there was that moment of having to break through it and fighting this thing off, and I wasn't scared afterwards. I was a little freaked out, and I was like, I was freaked out, but I wasn't scared. And I think that's a big difference in my world. There's been so much that's happened in the last 2 years, especially, but the years prior to that, leading up to it, have been a story too. But it's brought me to a point now where not consciously, but I find myself kind of leaning into those spots a little more and being okay with that fear and just going, all right, well, this is an experience in life. What's happening? Let's get it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've done a lot of work on yourself, and a lot has happened in your life from a very young age,
Hmm.
and that's clear here in this encounter we've been having. It shows. I knew there was a lot of depth there from having interacted with you, but it's surprising, Chander, really. So
You mean in
as
that I don't look like a person who's been beaten down by things so much? Maybe
you're
is that
not an NPC.
oh, thanks. Okay, cool.
You're a first person player, baby.
Yeah.
So let's look at this. Let's kind of look at all this now and walk through some ideas and concepts. What is death? How do you perceive death? What is that? What's going on?
Hmm. I'm glad you guys are gentle. I'm not sure. I am not sure. So I started to, I guess, wake up around 2011 and started to shed things like alcohol, but also TV and video games and all sorts of things. Just I started to listen to fringe podcasts and things like that. That you know, like the higher side chats and stuff that were talking about concepts that I at one time would have just been like, and I found myself listening, going, "Wow, they're making some sense right now." With some of the things they were talking about. And so my disillusionment, I became, I guess that, you know, I had Derek Hunter on my show last night and he was talking about,
I love Derek.
he's awesome. That was an
He's
amazing
amazing.
time.
Yeah, he's really great.
I'm still, yeah. Thanks for, thanks for connecting this in the way that you did, unintentionally.
The Vesica Pisces.
That's right. You are a connector, though. You are. I forget what I was saying.
We're looking at death, but here's okay. So this is actually a good transition because you said something and I want to get clarity on this. Everyone says this, and I get confused sometimes with definitions and ideas of what this is. So you said waking up, and then you started exploring other concepts that led you into like higher side chats. And we love Greg Carlson, and his show is stellar. But what do you mean by
Eventually,
waking up? Can you give us an idea what is that? What's waking up to you?
So I've always kind of just I've always felt like government does what it does because it has to govern people, and that's what it does. And so it's always going to be a little unfair, and there's wars in the world and politics and things. And it was clear that politicians often lie to each other and don't keep promises and things. And so I was always kind of just like, this is all a sham, and I'm just gonna live the best I can and let everybody else worry about that kind of stuff. But I never really bought into exploring things much more deeply. But I think it was, of course, I was around for 9/11. I hope I can say that.
You can,
The
absolutely.
event. So I was around for that, and that was an experience. And it made me. That was like, wait a minute. I knew things didn't add up, but when I started to get in this period we're talking about, the two things that really got me were talking about that event and also about the moon landing. And I never considered that being a possibility, that the moon landings might have been faked. And then when I looked at it, I was like, okay, there's a lot going on here. Whatever is happening, there's a lot of deception and a lot of things that are heavily influencing a lot of us. And so I guess anyway, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I don't open up to everything that's out there. However, there's a lot that is opening up now and coming to light about things all around in many different ways that is undeniable to me, and I can't help but see things sometimes. And so I guess thinking, going back to Derek Hunter real quick, he's talking about being in that place where you're not tied to that agnostic area, right? Where you're not that kind of that gray area where you don't have to commit one way or
Yeah,
or,
yeah.
But so what that was for me was that's where I had been before, and I found myself trying to stay in that gray area, but finding the more I maybe you guys understand this, but the more I tried to talk to anybody, the more it became apparent that not everybody's going to see the same things that I do or hear the same things I do.
Yeah. Well,
Like
and that,
my wife at the time did not believe anything about the moon landing. She was an English professor and a theater major, and her mom was an educator, and I was an educator as well and stuff. And so anyway, she was just like, no. So I got no acceptance from that. But I found myself being less in the gray area and taking a little more active approach um, at finding a little more truth.
yeah, this is okay. So that describes where you're coming from when you say wake up. And it is, in the end, it's just about questioning narratives and not just taking stuff as it's been given
Yes.
to you. And it doesn't
Oh,
have to be from you're suspicious of everything, or you're in back corners being suspicious of everything. It's just, it can be an honest curiosity.
yes. And I'm always a questioner, always have been, and it's gotten me in trouble a lot ever since I was a little
Yeah.
kid. Um, I question things, and yeah, that's exactly right. And uh, 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 it's not like I feel validated when I find something. I find myself wanting to know more.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. And that's I personally think it's a great place to be, because if you're allowing for the established narrative to open up and it remains solid, then great. But if there are questions that lead you into some some things that seem less solid, then that's worth exploring for your own good. It's I think the problem a lot of people have in the world in general is when you have it's with health, it's with everything, it's with religion. You find something that's very significant and you just want everyone else to see or find what you found.
Mhm.
And so it can be a good heart, it can be a good-hearted person that says, look at this, oh my God, did you ever consider this? Have you ever seen this? Have you accepted this? Whatever form it takes. And that's where things can be a little bit unattractive or off-putting, because these are personal journeys in the end, and we cannot it doesn't serve anyone to push this anything on anyone else. It serves no one, it's no good. And so these kinds of awakenings to other narratives or questioning theories, this is a personal journey, and as a lot of people know, it can be a very lonely journey.
Mm-hmm. More than I ever imagined. Yeah, you're right, Niche. And it's like I on the one hand I feel pretty lonely, and on the other hand, and I definitely am concerned, especially at my age, a single white straight male who's into the woo
Oh, is that
and lives with a
public
cat.
enemy number one?
God, how am I ever gonna? And the women I date, are it's yeah. I don't know who's ever going to be in the same consciousness level as me. We'll see. But on the other hand, I don't feel too bad. I feel good within myself, and I feel secure and not lonely because of the things I've been through recently, even. And yeah, so it is lonely, but it's I actually feel good with that,
Yeah.
especially where things are now.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is part of the deeper work. And you've done this work, and and it's coming out of you clearly. We just have to keep walking, keep dreaming, right?
Yeah,
So
keep dreaming.
that's my main message, baby, is keep dreaming. Don't dream it's over.
Hmm.
To cue a really great song. So as we're getting closer to the end here, I wanted to it's with your idea in death. And I wanted to kind of close it off before we get to questions in and solidly in the dreamscape. So, what do you think is going on outside of dreams that are the daily mental chatter, getting out, working out all the stuff you said in the day, all this, the psychological stuff?
Chasing the mice and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all of that, when we get past that into the deeper layers of self, right? When you're in a deep meditation, when you're in that stillness, when you're in that space that opens up, this big space that opens up through dream, especially, but meditation takes you there as well. It's the same thing. Uh, What do you find now in there? Is this a comfort zone for you? Are you able to how do you see the portal of dreams now? So,
There's so
and
many
like I
layers.
said, beyond the psychological stuff, the deep you in there.
There are so many layers with everything you say. I can go off in so many directions. Um, I'm funneling it down. Wow. So where I'm at with the dream world, I enjoy going there. I have lots of questions about it, and therefore about death and existence and stuff like that, perpetually. But and since I have the ability to drop into a trance pretty much at will and rather quickly, so I'm no stranger to being able to go into those spaces and be very comfortable and make it intentional and sometimes fun. And I'm never so I'm very comfortable with that. And so based on my NDEs that I've had, um, uh, and the lack of fear and lack of pain and suffering that was there, a lot of strangeness, but not. I feel very comfortable in my dreams, more comfortable than ever going as far as I want to go. You brought up the I forget the Monroe program that you did, the hemisync thing.
Yes.
And so I've been listening to Light in the Void, Joe talking about his experiences and checking that stuff out and doing my own things and stuff and diving into that world. And it's been a lot of fun. And I feel comfortable doing so because I feel secure in my tether here. And if that were to snap, then I feel comfortable going whatever happens is okay. I still have a lot of questions, and I'm a little concerned, and I'm especially concerned that I'm going to get deceived and not make the right choice. But I also have that fear within dreams too. Honestly, that maybe that could happen in a dream setting at some place.
Well, if
But
we go back to Chander, if we go back to your last LSD experience, when you were in that 19-year-old period that led to that craziness, right? Where you were at a crossroads and everything's very dire and you made the right choice for yourself. It took a lot of drama to get you there, a lot of pressure to get you there, and it was very dark, but you made it and you are all right.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's something about right now in the outer world that feels strip away the whole psychedelic aspect and the outer world looks very surreal right now. Very. But we're all
Different
kind of
kids.
we're confronting this now globally, but individually, how dire things are, how really unstable things are outside collectively in what we call reality. And so this is all boiling down to those kinds of experiences. So we can see a lot of those. There's spiritual crisis going on all around us. People are in crisis, and when they're in crisis, incredible things can happen. Big catharsis can happen. And if you think about this on a large scale, there's a big overture that's happening right now. And enough people, I think, are aware and are choosing the path out, right? For me, I always want to get out of what feels bad. I'm not one of those people who wants to linger in what feels bad. I want to get out into the beauty and what feels good. And I think that's a natural thing. And so when you're in those spaces and you're trying to just get away from all the grossness and the nasty and whatever is just feeling slimy and nasty, and you go towards that other road, you're going to be all right. And so this is where we are. And I think that looking at you and this journey you've brought us on tonight, Chander, I think you're going to be all right.
Thank you. I do too. I honestly do. I don't. I have no fear for that. The only thing I just don't want to get trapped into another lifetime of suffering. I want to be done with this world when it's done, and I'm cool with that. I don't fear death. As I just don't want to suffer unnecessarily, and I don't want to. I don't want to suffer at all. But and I don't want to come back. I don't feel like I'm gonna. It's weird. I don't know. I don't know. I've had this sense always that I'm not actually going to die. Who knows what's happening in the world now? But I also feel that I'm not going to come back. So I don't know what all that means.
Well, and this gets to my last question before we get to questions. The idea of dharma and karma, right?
Mm.
What's the I mean, I know what the difference is, but for me at least, what's the difference for you, and where do you stand on that set of polarities? You know, karma being the bill you're creating, right? Where, you know, when you gotta have the tab at the end of the night, what's going on here? So, where do you feel on that scale? Where do you feel you are?
Well, it depends on how, given that definition of karma, how are you defining dharma? I think I would define it maybe a little differently than you're asking in this context.
Let me ask you this. How do you define karma and how do you define dharma?
Hmm. Um, I, uh, I think I've let go of the concept of karma. You know, I mean, not entirely in that, like I don't invalidate it, but I don't feel it's tied to karma for whatever reason. I don't know if it's something I've done within myself, but I don't feel tied to past karma, even though I still beat myself up over things and stuff. The karmic specifically thing, like I don't think I'm going to suffer eternally or be reincarnated in a bad way because of anything I've done karmically.
Well,
And I've
didn't
never
you
done
just
anything.
answer your question then? You just answered. So the concern you had that led me into asking that question, you just answered it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it did, huh? Wow. Thanks, niece.
Bring on the good times. Bring
I
on the
still
good times.
going back to Derek again. You know, living with uncertainty. It's uncertain. I don't know, but yeah, you're right. I am not worried about what I thought I was. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, and it's funny how when it gets to that point of unraveling concepts, words are tricky. Words are tricky things, but
For
that's
sure.
the point, is that we get tied in by them and the concepts in which they represent.
Yeah, it's true.
Words
So
are hard.
Words
words,
are hard.
they can be very soft and squishy
There's
too.
a couple of makers on YouTube called Evan and Caitlin. They're gamers and makers and weird, you know, Gen Xers and Zoomers.
Oh, I gotta follow them.
Millennials are millennials. They sell shirts that say words are hard.
I
Awesome.
love that. It is, words are, you know, sticks and stones in a way.
Yeah, well, the
You can
guy
have one of those, and then you had a Nox Mente shirt that says that's what she said.
That's what she said.
Is there? I need to look in that shop.
No, there isn't right now, but I will make one. I made a tiny green Sven shirt yesterday.
Jerry. So do we have
No.
Jared, is there anything out there? No questions
No
for
questions.
Chander? I'm
Yogi did such a
surprised.
great job. Wait, unless I was questioned. It's a question for you. Ninjutsu, where and who studied with?
Several people, mainly in Colorado. I've lived in Colorado, so my home base has been here. So the one that made the biggest impact was the Genbukan, and so in ninjutsu, and there's so much controversy over what ninjutsu really is and the validity of the lineages and things. And in fact, there's a guy out there right now, Anthony Cummins, who's a historical researcher.
You said Cummins.
I did. That's what she said too.
Yeah.
So he researches the historical aspect of ninja, and he has something called Natori Ryu, and I would recommend looking into that because he takes a look at the other main families and kind of just makes you think, makes you question, and that's always good. But to answer your question, when I was training, especially, there was mainly two large groups or families: the Genbukan and the Bujinkan. And Bujinkan was head up by Masaki Atsumi, the 34th Grandmaster, I believe, of Togakuru, and the big guy. And then his cousin was Shoto Tanemura Sensei, and that's the one from the Genbukan, who is the Grandmaster of my style. The headquarters in America was in North Hollywood at the corner of Laurel Canyon Boulevard and Magnolia Boulevard. A little interesting woo-woo tie there too. But so that's where I studied, mainly here in Colorado, and then traveled when I needed to do other training. And since I left the Genbukan, well, actually, the American dojos broke off from the Genbukan at one point, political split, which happens. Then I had creative differences with my instructors and never went back to formalized training or organized pretty much anything since then. I live on my own. I do my thing, and now I still train, but training is very different for me now, and I don't feel the need to practice martial arts techniques for any reason, and I'm still a martial artist, and I still have things that I don't need to practice, but I am more focused on the metaphysical side of things and metaphysical martial arts, and that's a real thing. And diving into more of the medicinal aspect of Nimpo, I got into energy medicine through my martial arts study and was certified in Shiatsu in '95, and so that's always been a good balance for me, is keeping those things. And I really think that's what the long term is going to be about for me, is the energy and the healing aspects, and how I can influence the world in a positive way through that. But they're still out there. You can still go find those people to train with, and it's good training. I mean, it is really legit, whether or not it has historical legitimacy, whatever. The stuff works, and it's thorough, and it's real, and there's no faking any of it. You got you learn how to do everything. I'm an acrobatic specialist, and it's through that. So you learn falling and rolling, and how to actually get hit, and stuff. So yeah, they're anywhere you train ninjutsu, they're going to be hardcore. They're going to be real Japanese style about it, and no goofing around. So if that's not your style, it might be better to do something else, and then like train in like parkour or something. Would you give you something really close to that?
Some of the best training I had in martial arts, and I love martial arts, and I'm with you on the metaphysical side. The internal martial arts, as I call it,
Yeah.
was learning how to fall and roll and all that. I cannot tell you in my life, and I'm a girl that likes to wear her wedges and high shoes because I'm
Oh
not
my.
very tall, and
Oh my.
so I am the queen of falling, and I laugh every time, very Lucille Ball about it. But in the martial arts training has really helped me. You know how to roll, you know how to land, and so I can come in looking very elegant, and I'll take a dive. It's all, and every time I'm feeling like I'm feeling good, and I dive every single time.
Me too, Dick Van
I,
Dyke style.
but I know how to roll, so it's always all right, and I'm usually laughing while everyone's like, "Oh my God, is she all right?" So,
I'm the right there
yeah,
with you, yeah. I'm
it's so
challenged by what you
funny. The learning how to fall is a very big deal. It is a very big deal. Most people like clinch up, and this is when you get broken bones and all that. You have to roll with it, but not just roll. You kind of have to control the roll. Which way is it going, and all that. So
Yeah.
there's an art to it.
and I hated it. I was scared of the ground, and I'm not. I'm a rather large person. I'm definitely not a gymnast body type. So all that stuff didn't come naturally. And the thing I hated worst was getting thrown, like a hip throw or getting tossed in the air and having to land.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
hated that. But I dove right into it. I did so much of that, and we'd practice in the parking lot out front of the dojo
Yeah.
to land on the concrete and stuff to
Oh
do
yeah.
it. And
Well,
you do.
because that's the real world. I mean, that's where you're going to be falling. I can't tell you. It seems like, well, before we got locked in, it seemed like I would have some sort of crazy fall in public once a month. Seriously. And it's because I love my wedges and stuff. It's the shoes I choose to wear.
I wish
Because
I had some of the plan.
if you're in a wedge, and you hit a pebble, it's like a bike. You hit a pebble the wrong way, you're gonna go down. Or you can try and hold it and have a broken ankle. And I'd rather just roll and laugh.
For sure. Yeah. It's kind of like a free little adrenaline rush anyway, right?
Oh yeah, you've got to laugh at yourself. I learned that a long time ago. So this has been a fantastic time with you, Chander. I adore you, and you're so easy to chat with. And I'm so glad your show's going well. You've just been talking to amazing people that I love in the world, and continuing to just move forward. I inspire everyone to check that out.
Thanks, Nish. Thanks
Yeah,
for giving me a lot of momentum in that direction. Jerry?
be sure to check out Yogi's channel. I linked it in the description, and it's in the show notes too. So, do you have anything else you want to plug while you're here?
Well, I wanted to say, first of all, thanks again to you guys, both of you. Jerry, thanks, and you are real cool.
Thank you.
And
With a great voice. Jerry's got the pipes.
Yeah.
Jerry's got an awesome voice. He centers me when I pay attention. Yeah, that's good. Are either of you broadcast trained by chance?
No.
Nope.
Wow, you're very pro.
We're all natural.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for having me. And I love the places we go, and I am terrible at talking about myself. I always have been, and I haven't even tried to tell anything about my story in a very long time. And so I'm actually a little nervous right now suddenly, and I hope that you got out of the stories which you needed. But it was a pleasure, and hopefully we'll get to talk again. And so what I would like to plug is Jerry will be on my show. I think it's Friday night at 7 p.m. Is that right?
I thought you said Sunday.
That's the panel show.
Jerry, no,
whatever
Jerry,
you want.
he's booking you right now on air.
I got Friday off, so I'm open all day.
Actually, okay, if I could do it during the day, that'd be good. I do have Joe Rook in the evening.
Sure, whatever you want. Whatever you want to, just let me know.
I put him on the spot.
I'm at your service. No, you didn't.
You're gonna have a good time with Jer. He's always got something interesting going on.
I love, he just waits for the right time to make his comments, and it's always the right thing, and it's funny as hell, and I can identify with it, especially on Cruising the Steak. It's just like perfect. So it's pretty fun. What I want to plug is my channel, my show. That's really what I'm working on. I love this community. Thank you for accepting me, all of you. All of you people out there who are part of my channel. Thank you so much. You know how much you mean to me. And so, yeah.
What's your channel? Say it out loud. Give us the power.
It's just a YouTube channel, and it's Yogi Chander, Noel, Yogi Chander.
You should just add a Bing to the end. Yogi Chander Bing.
What's Chander Bing?
Chandler Bing from Friends. Never mind.
Oh, yes. I didn't know that was his last name. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just about to say something about Friends, but yeah, there you go. Which, have you noticed that's making an odd resurgence?
Yes.
There's a lot of Friends stuff floating around. There's
a lot of everything old floating around lately. It's called There's No New Ideas in Hollywood, so they just have to reboot everything or resurrect it.
Truth.
We could talk about that on Friday.
Sounds great. Let's do that. So that channel, and I am working with my Korotama medicine and some some things that will be coming up with regards to that. So keep on the lookout for that. And yeah, if you have any suggestions for something you'd like to see on my show, I'd love to hear it. And if you have anybody who you think should be on my show, I'd love to hear it. And yeah, thank you for everything.
Great. Well, thanks. It's been a pleasure having you on. I look forward to being on your show. So thank you, Nish. Thank you, Yogi. It's been great.
Thank you, Jerry.
Everyone listening. And be sure to tune in next week. We've got a pre-recorded episode that we did with J.W. Spillers, NDE researcher.
And that was a very interesting one. It was very well for the Christians in the audience.
Yes.
I think they're going to find it very interesting.
Absolutely.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was very religious. So, yeah,
and y'all know I pull up to any flavor, and so I had a good time.
Yeah, nothing is off the table. And in 2 weeks, also, I want to mention we got David Weiss from Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole.
He was one of my first subscribers, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
Synchro.
He's amazing.
Yeah, he's really cool. I actually met him at Flattoberfest back in October.
You did? You went?
Oh yeah, I went.
Hells yeah, Jerry. Cool. We'll talk about that too.
I met him. I met Mike Williams. I met Jason Lindgren. I met Rose, his girlfriend. I hung out with Freeman for a while.
Whoa.
It was a good time.
He was on your show too.
He was on our show. And he didn't remember too. I'm like, hey, I'm Jerry from Nox Mente. He's like, what's Nox Mente? I'm like, that show you were on about a month ago? He's like, oh, right. Yeah. No, Freeman's cool.
Are you a flat earther, Jerry?
I'm not.
Yeah, Jerry's open, though. Jerry's open.
I'm shape agnostic.
You and I are going to have an awesome talk on Friday, man, and I have a gift for you as well. So cool.
Oh, you don't even know. You don't know what you're getting into.
I'm more of a holodeck Earth guy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm done with that.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Pass
so we'll
the
wrap this
Doochie
up.
on the right.
Yep, pass that Doochie. I got my THC vape right here.
Nice.
Hey.
Nice. Mine is ready. I'll be there next.
That I spent $85 fucking dollars on in Chicago. What a ripoff. Anyway.
Oh my God.
What brand is it?
I don't know. Nothing.
This is like the show that won't end.
Nothing spectacular. I'm going to end it. Good night, everybody. Have a great night. We'll talk to you next week.